Well, we definitely came into a much dangerous situation. If indeed the head of Hezbollah is dead, or maybe even incapacitated, that is a very big blow. Of course, Hezbollah will have contingency, but this is coming at the back of the killing of the second and third level military commanders. So there is a lot of military capacity in Hezbollah that's been degraded. Which means Hezbollah is more likely to accept a ceasefire. But on the other side, the Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu now is vindicated. He's proven that more force, more killing actually gets results, and therefore his domestic situation is much stronger. He's not under threat of being, removed, because he managed to achieve in the last 2 weeks. He managed to achieve military and political goals that are important for re-establishing the Israeli deterrence. We need to remember all of this war, all of this is not really about the hostages or about Hezbollah. It's really about the fact that on October 7th, after 75 years of Israel's existence, this was the first time where it was clear that Israel not only was unable to defend itself, but also that it didn't know how to defend itself. So the last 2 weeks in the different operations that they've managed to clean up, let's say, the optics of looking like the strong Israel that is technologically advanced, that has a strong army and a strong intelligence, and is able to reach and assassinate the main leaders of their opponents. In general, yes, Netanyahu never wanted to end the war because it's good for him. It avoids, the second the war ends, he needs to be answerable to the cases against him inside Israel. So he wants a prolongation of the war as much as possible. The challenge for him was that he was not getting results, and therefore there was a lot of pressure on him to either stop the war or have some sort of momentary ceasefire. But now with the military successes that he's had, he no longer has this, pressure, and therefore he's way less likely to heed to a ceasefire unless he gets something very valuable, like a peace deal with Saudi Arabia. Maybe Iran also does something. So there needs to be something very valuable that he gets in return for accepting to do a ceasefire. The United States could have stopped the war in December last year, because the Israeli military ran out of ammunition by the end of 2023. However, the U.S. needs Israel to win because the reputation of Israel is from the reputation of the U.S. If Israel loses this war, then automatically Iran wins, and therefore the United States also loses. So the U.S. is on the same page, let's say, agrees with the Israeli goal of victory. It disagrees with the way Israel does it. It wishes there are less civilian casualties, but the U.S. administration is unwilling to stop Israel because it wants Israel to win. So they can stop them, but they choose not to because there are political gains that the United States wants Israel to achieve in order to, again, regain the geopolitical position of the U.S. and Israel in the region. Yes, of course. I mean, the challenge is there have been call for sanctions. The International Court said that Israel needs to, if you remember on Rafah, it specifically said that Israel needs to withdraw from Rafah. And of course, the Israel did not heed to that. So all of these instances where the international community and international law was clear that Israel was in the wrong, and yet it wasn't deterred because the international community did not put the kind of pressure using the legal instruments that they already had, right? So the court already said that Israel needs to stop, but the countries like the UK, France, the United States did not do anything with that. So if there are actual sanctions, if there is a price that the state of Israel is going to pay if it continues with the war, yes, Israel would stop. But short of that, unfortunately, the Israeli government is going to try to get away with as much as it can. Yes, I think it was actually choreographed, timed to do that, so that he would come to the UN. If you noticed from his speech, all his speech was about Israel fighting on behalf of the quote unquote civilized societies, and that it was trying to fight the darkness, the arc of I think the curse of terrorism, and they wanted to make these relationships with the region and make prosperity and blessing. So he's trying to make it like Israel is doing this on behalf of the entire civilized world. And the attack, it seems they had very good intelligence to know that the attack had a very high probability of success. So he wanted to have the attack, finish his speech, and then go back to Israel so that he wouldn't stay in New York. Because if he had stayed in New York, there would have been pressure on him to negotiate the terms of the ceasefire. By going back to Israel, it makes it much more difficult, which is what he wanted. Because that makes him appear in the eyes of Israeli citizens, it makes him appear as strong as the Israeli politician who the entire world is running after to try to make him accept the ceasefire. It makes him look very strong. Yes, of course. I mean, even if he were dead, Hezbollah wouldn't announce it until they have their internal house in order, and until they come up with a narrative, with a story that is going to help their cause. Now, it could be that he's killed. It could be that he's severely injured and therefore cannot do his capacities. He would be incapacitated. Either way, they understand that this is a very big win for Israel, and they want to make sure that Israel, to lessen the amount of advantage that Israel has, or it can use it for. Well, definitely they want to take revenge. The challenge for them is that since the killing of Maghniye many years ago, Hezbollah really hasn't been able to exact a price for the caliber of military leaders that they've had killed by Israel. So in theory, well, at least if Hezbollah is indeed killed, they would need to kill somebody that's, if not the prime minister, maybe the former prime minister or maybe the president of Israel, which is, of course, extremely difficult. They might be a process by which, rather, like they would threaten some big attack, maybe some attack outside of Israel, like in somewhere in the world. Some Israeli interest that's very important, they might do that. But it also could be that they threaten to do something big, and then they use that leverage, that threat of doing something big, to extract some sort of understanding, some agreement between Israel, Iran, and Hezbollah, and maybe Saudi Arabia, for which, giving up, let's say, quote unquote, their right for revenge, they get something politically valuable in return.